Welcome back to the channel. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be I'll be reviewing, though, Heaven's Prisoners by James Lee Burke, book number 2 in his Dave Robichaux mystery series. Right now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 29 books in the Dave Robichaux mystery series that I can count down there. On my bookshelf, I will show you them right there. That's where they all are. And the rest of my library, while we're at it, we'll do a quick swing around. Anyway, collect a lot of books, folks, and we're going to be leaving a review of each one of these books in my library on the YouTube channel. So we're reviewing book number 2 of the Dave Robichaux series. I reviewed book number 1, Neon Rain, one of the most brutal, wickedly brutal mystery books I've ever read, and the book that got me hooked on the rest of the Dave Robichaux books. Heaven's Prisoners is probably the book, though, and I'll save that for a minute. Let's talk about the cover first. We always talk about the covers. This is the original first edition hardcover. It came out in 1988, so it's kind of got a little bit, the cover's a little bit aged, it's got a weird, you almost can't even make out what that even fucking says. And it's got these weird photoshopped, and so this looks like it was someone's first attempt at Photoshop. That's what this cover looks like. I mean, let's just be real. It kind of sucks. Anyway, the Alec Baldwin actually made a movie. There's been 2 movies made of the Dave Robichaux books. The first one of the movies was called, it had Tommy Lee Jones. It was book 5 or 6 in the series, and it starred Tommy Lee Jones as Dave Robichaux. The first movie ever made of Dave Robichaux book was Heaven's Prisoners, starring Alec Baldwin as Dave Robichaux, and it came out in like 1990 or 91 or something like that, and it didn't do well. We won't talk about Alec Baldwin's most recent troubles of shooting someone accidentally on set. A tragedy, just bringing up his name. That's probably what he's going to be remembered for, most unfortunately. Anyway, this book is probably, what I was going to say is this book is probably, book number 2 is the book where so many things happen in this book. 2 huge events happen in this book that cause a ripple butterfly effect through the rest of the series. Undoubtedly, this is the pivotal book in the series. The one that's got these 2 major events that just change everything in Dave Robichaux's life. Dave Robichaux, in book 1, Neon Rain, was a Louisiana, New Orleans police officer. In this book, he's just a private investigator. And throughout the series, he sort of bounces between police officer and private investigator quite a bit, because he's not always the best police officer. Let's be honest. He drinks. Like every other cop that's in a police procedural series, they got a hard drinking problem, and Dave Robichaux is no different. Anyway, what happens is him and his wife, Annie, they're out on the Louisiana bayous just, fishing, and a plane crashes. A small twin-engine plane crashes in the swamp next to them. Well, Dave Robichaux is an expert diver, and he puts on his diving gear, and he goes down immediately to see if he can save people, because he knows that the marsh is only 8 or 9 feet deep, but the plane's upside down, and he knows that the people might need to. Well, once he gets down there, he sees 4 adults, 2 women and 2 men, and 1 child. The only person he can save is the child, and he takes the child up, and he takes the child to the, because the child is almost drowned. It's a serious situation. The kid should still die. Rush the kid to the hospital. He knows there's nothing he can do for the other 4 people. They're dead. He calls it in on 911. Hey, I saw a plane crash. Here's the coordinates. And then he takes off to the hospital with this kid that nobody knows about. What he has discovered while he was underwater, he's like, this is clearly a plane that was carrying drug cartel people. And maybe this kid is here because maybe someone was being smuggled out of Mexico or whatever. But everything about this plane looks sketchy, including this kid is clearly a Spanish kid. And so he takes this little girl. And when the doctors at the hospital say, well, what's the little girl's name and what is their relationship to you? For some reason, he just has a feeling he should just tell them that it's his daughter and that it's his daughter. And that's where one of the pivotal things that has a ripple effect throughout the rest of the entire series, because that little girl does become his adoptive daughter throughout the rest of the series. And she's just a young kid in this book, but by book number 29, she's an adult and she's a police officer and involved in law enforcement all her own self. And anyway, so that's a big, huge pivotal moment in the story. But it's also a mystery because the real FBI is also investigating. Remember, he called in the plane crash. The FBI come to interview him about the plane crash. And they're like, hey, other than the three adults that you saw in the plane crash, was there anybody else? And, well, he's like, yeah, I saw 4 adults down there, but you're saying there's only 3 adults. And they're like, yeah, there was only 3 adults. He's like, well, I saw 4. And they're like, did you see anybody else? Because it seemed like there was a suitcase full of little children's clothes. We're just trying to figure out why these 3 adults would have a suitcase full of little children's clothes if there wasn't a little child in the plane with him. And of course, him and his wife are keeping the kid secret. And he's like, well, first of all, there were 4 adults, not 3. So I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why you're trying to tell me there were only 3 adults. There was 4 when I was down there diving. I saw it with my own eyes. And then the FBI is kind of confused. He's confused. And then that's where the mystery just snowballs into all sorts of depravity and grim sorts of hell. Because James Lee Burke's books are like, if you ever watched that show Justified with Timothy Olyphant, imagine Justified, but the violence and brutality dialed up 1,000 times more. That's what we're getting to here for. And then there's a gut-wrenching twist in the middle of this book, which is the second thing that has a ripple effect throughout the entire rest of the series. And I won't tell you what that is, but I'm just saying this is why this Heaven's Prisoners is the pivotal book in the whole series, book number 2. And so just a great, great mystery. Just one of the great classic mysteries of all time. Neon Rain was just a fabulous introduction to the Dave Robichaux series. Heaven's Prisoners just keeps it going. And then with those 2 massive plot points, like I said, that propel the series into the future, you have to read this book. I give this book a solid 9.5 out of 10. I do believe I liked book 1 slightly more, although I can't pinpoint why. This one is certainly one of the top mystery novels of all time. And James Lee Burke is one of our top mystery writers of all time.